can highlight comments like this, because I don't know what happened yesterday with live stream with gaming tech. This was not working for me, so we have to figure that out. Because I mean, the whole point of the live streams for me is to interact with you, and I saw a lot of comments, and I couldn't read them and chat with the community. Live streams are my favorite kind of content, honestly. I would like, instead of doing videos, I would just like to live stream everything, even the videos, because for me, it doesn't get any more real than that. That is more pure, in my opinion. And you see that I like to do the videos one cut, no editing, and I don't even think about too much what I'm going to say. Is whatever comes out. So I like it raw. So that's why I enjoy live streams. So let's do it for the next hour or so. I'll be reading all your comments, so feel free to comment. You don't have to hurry or anything. Just say whatever you want, and I'm gonna read all the comments. So let me start here with everything PS5 Pro. He says, I've been talking with Gaming Tech in a comment, and he believes it would be great to stream a live stream with us, all three. What do you think? Any place where we can contact each other and do some planning? Yeah, I'll post my email here in the comments. I mean, see, how can I post a comment here? Yeah, here it is. So my email, I'll post it here. Is aerial guitar classes at gmail.com. I am a guitar teacher. Okay. Actually, I stayed up very late yesterday practicing the guitar because I invented a new technique to play like Paco de Lucia very fast. And it was working. I was playing with him that fast. So I was very excited about that, man. For me, playing the guitar is the best thing because let me get more comfortable with the camera here. Yeah, because it's the most difficult thing I've ever tried. There's no limit for how good you can get. No limit. So there's always room for improvement. For me, happiness. I feel happy when I am making progress in something, making more money, learning something, or improving at anything. So, for example, a guarantee for improvement is doing exercises. There's no way you exercise and you don't get better, stronger. Impossible. So my recommendation is right now, if nothing is working for you, if you're not making more money or improving, or something is not going well, exercise, because that's gonna go well for sure. So for me, exercise is a guarantee of happiness. So the guitar is like an infinite opportunity for improvement, and I love it because of that. I love more the challenge of playing the instrument than the music itself. It's like, Rafael Nadal, the tennis player. He says he enjoys more the competition, competing, than tennis itself. And for him, tennis is just a vehicle to compete. It's what he decided to use. But competition is his passion. So something similar happened to me with music, and I think it's the best thing. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. Everything PS5 Pro said, we could do streams like Digital Foundry. Yeah, but they don't do live streams. Digital Foundry records and edits their streams, and they do it very well. But I wish they'd go live and interact with the community. That's what I really like. That's what I value the most. I value the most you being as transparent and real as possible. For example, I never like these videos where you see people reading from a script. It doesn't sound natural to me. And it's like one word after the other, nonstop, no breathing. I'm not a big fan of that. Of course, I do watch content like that. That's very good. Like, Gamers Nexus, Hardware Unbox, they are the best in what they do. But I much rather have them do, I cannot say longer videos because, Gamers Nexus, sometimes I understand he's trying to put out so much information that might not even work. He's reading numbers and stuff. That's understandable. But yeah, I prefer if they could do it without reading. It would be better. My opinion. That's what I would like. So he says, but instead, once a week we do whatever we feel like. Oh, for sure. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, let's plan. I'm open to do live streams with anyone. I like the collaborations. He also says, what app are you using for streaming? So right now we are paying for a StreamYard. And it's not great, honestly. Basically we are paying for this. So I can click on the comments and highlight it and it's on screen. So it is that you get 1080p. So paying money for 1080p quality. That's incredible. So that's not good enough. And the biggest thing is you can stream simultaneously in multiple channels. I think the limit is like 4 channels. That's what we're paying for, basically. So yeah. Spy Plane says, I want to know how to get my games and PC to calibrate like you do for your C1, but I'm using an A95LC here. Well, it's exactly the same. If you have a different TV, the only thing that's going to change is the brightness that you need on the game for the TV to look the best. Now, the A95L, I don't know what is the tone mapping. I don't know what's the target. I don't know if the TV is doing any dynamic thing where it changes. I honestly don't know. I think I've heard HDTV test saying that, for example, on the PS5, if you have a test pattern with the Sony TVs, like the HDR calibration settings, the logo will never disappear because the TV is changing the tone mapping accordingly. Because it's receiving, Sony is like interconnected with the PS5, and maybe it is receiving the metadata. And when the TV receives, 10,000 nits, it's gonna, the Sony TVs don't do tone mapping with 10,000 nits target. They go up to 4,000. So basically, let's say you have it at 1,000 on the PS5 calibration settings. You increase it to 2,000, and then the TV changes tone mapping. So I don't know. Basically, what you have to test with any TV or any monitor is you have to make sure what is the tone mapping target. So okay, this is the brightness that I need. And you also need to know what is the peak brightness of the TV. So if the peak brightness of the monitor or TV is 1,000 nits, then the best is if the TV can do tone mapping with 1,000 nits. So it'd be like HGIG, and that's what you would select. So if it's 1,000 nits peak brightness, but the display is doing tone mapping at 1,500 or something like that, then it's rolling off, and that's not the best. But yeah, you have to basically investigate what is the maximum peak brightness that you need for it to look the best. That's the thing. Doesn't matter which display it is. You need to know for sure. So I know, for example, my LG C1 has HGIG, which is ideally no tone mapping. Of course, there is tone mapping. All displays have tone mapping because of ABL. Okay, but HGIG on the LG C1 tries to do no tone mapping and follow the EOTF up to 800 nits and a hard clip at 800 nits. But that's on a 10% window. On a bigger window size, it cannot do that. It has to do tone mapping. So HGIG is technically no tone mapping on a 10% window. Let's say it like that. But there is tone mapping because of ABL. The TV cannot do 800 nits on a 100% window. No TV, no OLED can do that so far. So that's the thing. And I also know that if I cannot change the peak brightness on a game or something like that, which is never the case now with ReShade, you can always change the peak brightness. But if you cannot, because you're playing on consoles, for example, then I know my LG C1 has these options, these mastering peak max CLL options that I've shared, that allow you to do tone mapping at 400 nits, 540, 700, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and 10,000 nits. So I have all those options to do tone mapping. So that's great because, for example, if I'm going to do like an SDR, HDR trick, and the content can only be 500 nits, like on Windows, when you turn on HDR and you use the slider, you get like 500 nits. So when you select on the TV tone mapping off, that's not actually tone mapping off. That is, the TV is doing tone mapping. So that setting, the naming is wrong. It's not what it is. So you select tone mapping off, and then you select mastering peak max CLL 540. I don't know why it's not 500. It's 540, but it's the closest one. Then I get 800 nits on a 10% window. So the TV has a content with less brightness than what the TV can output. So when you do that tone mapping, what that means is when the content is 540 nits, the TV is going to give you its maximum peak brightness, which in this case is up to around 800 nits. So basically, the actual peak brightness of the TV is important. You need to know that. But really, the key is to know what your tone mapping options are and what is the best target that you need for the TV to look the best. And that's what you want to feed the TV. You want to feed basically the most perfect signal possible for it to look the best. The spy plane says it is supposed to have great brightness with a QD OLED panel. Yeah, QD OLEDs, because they have more color brightness, even if you measure the same brightness on a WRGB OLED and a QD OLED, you measure them, and it's exactly the same number, the QD OLED will appear to our eyes more bright because of the color vibrancy. So the color vibrancy gives you that sensation of it is brighter. For example, my plasma TV is not bright at all. It's like 80 nits full screen at most, maybe less. And it looks bright enough. Just 80 nits, but it's 80 nits of color. That's not a white subpixel washing out anything. That is color. And it is self-emissive. So the contrast is great. Viewing angles are flawless. And it just looks fantastic because of that. But yeah, QD OLED is a great technology. The only thing I don't like really about QD OLEDs is the way the screen looks under lighting conditions. But you should be in a dark room anyway, so shouldn't be a big problem. Said he got a great deal on it. You got a great deal on an A95L? Seems hard to believe because Sony TVs are always like overpriced on the store here, at least on the US. They are very expensive. Yeah, that's nice to be good for you. So you've been using the A95L for PC gaming for a month. I love it. I'm glad you like it, man. I didn't like my LG C1 at all when I got it. It was trash. I don't know if it was because it was crushing blacks. I don't know, man. But from a plasma TV to the C1, I was getting less full screen brightness, less color saturation, and the games looking terrible on HDR. I was not happy at all. Even when it is much better than the plasma I was using, without a doubt. I'm playing every game I can download and play on it. That's what you have to do, bro. Just try all the games. I have like, I don't know, 6,000 gigabytes of games or something like that. It's crazy. But I really only play a handful of them. I also like to just open the games sometimes. Even if I'm not going to play it, okay, I'm going to open it and check it out and see how it looks. Because I always wanted to have a nice PC. I always wanted to have a high-end PC just to enjoy the graphics. So, I don't have the latest and greatest, and I will never have the latest and greatest because it's just too much money, man. I cannot justify that. This last year, I would say the last 8 months, I have spent more money than in my entire life, and it's not close, not even close. So yeah, I cannot buy anything. I cannot buy toys right now. I would like to, of course, have the latest and greatest, but I have a family. I cannot justify that. It's too much. We play Call of Duty, the beta. I play Call of Duty with some friends here in the US, some friends from Cuba. And I enjoy that. But the thing with Call of Duty, man, you need to be very good. And with a controller, I like to play with a controller because I'm playing on the TV. I'm not good enough with a controller to be competitive. I'm just like a beginner playing shooters. I'm better with Souls-like games, but not with shooting and aiming with the analog stick. I'm not very good at it. So I have prepped for studio session. If you say yes to joining the stream area, I'm ready. So, I don't know how to, for example, I have to ask Gaming Tech or figure it out. I don't know how to add someone here to the stream. I would. I have no issue with that. I have to learn how can I add someone to the stream like right now. Because I would do that. I would be just doing a live stream like uh talking about anything, even just watching a video reaction or whatever. And if someone wants to join, I would like to just give them a link and come in. We just talk about it, whatever. Uh, Spy Plane says, I'm stress testing everything. I can to see all the highlights. Yeah, the excitement of a new TV. How's it going, Nate? The Bard, Storm, Board. Tempo says, does RTX HDR brighten interface elements too much? Text boxes are very bright. Yes. It's like auto HDR. I think Nvidia they have one of this, when you press Alt F3, they have a HUD shader where you can remove the HUD, but it doesn't work for all the games. It works for some games. But they need to add that to RTX. It's definitely so, not to remove the HUD, but to change the brightness of the HUD. That's definitely one thing that they could improve RTX, because in my opinion, RTX HDR just needs to improve performance. Aside from that, it is flawless in my opinion. It's just absolutely perfect all the time. RTX HDR gets the gamma right. It knows if the content is originally sRGB or if it's 2.2 or whatever it is, and the gamma near black looks right. It never looks washed out near black. It's just perfect. They have to add that HUD brightness, a slider. And with that and better performance, I mean, that would be great. Now, you can always use ReShade, or not always, because what I'm going to recommend you not always works. Is an add-on that is called Shader Toggler that I shared with you like 2 or 3 videos ago, that allows you to remove things like the HUD, and you can give it a key. You can have like a key to toggle the HUD. So after you find the HUD elements, they will disappear. You give it a hotkey, and then you're just playing the game. You're like, okay, I'm tired of this HUD, and you turn it off. I play Lies of P like that, which I'm close to DNF. I haven't beat Lies of P yet. Fighting with a boss here that I feel like it has too much health. It's like repetitive, but you have to hit it so many times. I don't know. I think they messed it up on that one. The solution at 2022 says, I have a question. What's the point of, say, going from an LG C1 to an LG C4? The differences can't be so next level to warrant a change. Is there any real point? The C4 is going to appear significantly brighter because it pushes a little bit more higher APL. So the average brightness of the scene is gonna be higher. So even when the peak brightness might be about the same, what appears brighter for us really is the full screen brightness. So if you measure the numbers, the full screen brightness might not be higher either. But because of processing, or it's really the tone mapping algorithm of the ABL, like intelligently, it decides, okay, it is okay to push a little bit more brightness. But they could do the same with the C1. If they, with a firmware update, they could literally give you the same quality on the LG C1 or really any older OLED as they give you with the C4. They're not a more powerful processor is not necessary for that. That is just a software restriction, let's say. So yeah, I would not upgrade from a C1 to a C4, especially because you're gonna lose BFI 120 BFI anyway. So you're getting a downgrade there. So yeah, I would get if you're upgrading from a C1, either get a QD OLED. If you want something different, my recommendation is get a QD OLED. If I get a TV right now, I would not get the G4 because yes, it's brighter. Yes, the colors are going to appear more vibrant because it has that color boosting. But it's a WRGB. It's the same thing. Near black is trash. when it comes to the uniformity, near black is gonna be same, very bad. Um, and it's just a WRGB OLED, so it's brighter, but it's not going to give me a lot more, color saturation on HDR. It's not worth it, man. I will get a QD OLED just to get something different. So that's my recommendation. If you have a WRGB OLED already, get something different. Get a mini LED. If you want something different, get a TCL QM8. Super bright in comparison. That thing is crazy. If you want something different to feel like, wow, I'm getting an upgrade, yeah, get something like that. Of course, you're gonna lose other qualities like that per pixel, perfect contrast, but you have something different. So that's my opinion. I will get something different. Is my thing. I don't like to have many things that are very similar. If I'm gonna buy something, I prefer to get an upgrade. I consider an upgrade if it's different. If it's about the same, I don't really care. I own Samsung Plasma. It bought it on Fry's Electronic when it was released for $1,500 back in the 90s. $1,500, not too bad. I've been searching on the marketplace for the F8500. It's a Samsung Plasma. That's the brightest plasma ever created. Digital Trends made a video about it. He compared that with a QD OLED. I think it was the S95C. And his conclusion was that, yeah, QD OLED is brighter. And it's better. Of course, it is better. No question about that. But it is not fair to compare brightness of a plasma TV with the brightness of a sample and hold display. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, because the plasma is losing brightness because it has better motion clarity. So you need to understand, and it's very simple to understand, the Talbot-Plateau's law. The Talbot-Plateau's law basically tells you that the brightness that we perceive And the brightness that's going on really is the average brightness in time. So for example, with a sample on hold display, you are supposed to get the image on screen, and the frame is going to stay on screen until the new one comes. But with a plasma, the TV is flashing the entire screen, but then it is turning off. So it is like doing pop, 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 pop. It's flashing at you. It's flickering. And it is using dithering to produce the final image. So those flashes are not, they do not look like the final image that we see. They have like weird colors. So if you look at those images by themselves, they look terrible. Plasma TVs, if you could look at them with a super slow motion camera, and I show a video recorded with my camera, and you could see some of it. Those images, they look like purple and orange, super weird, because the plasma is using dithering. But the point is, there is a black period. Okay, so the plasma basically is flashing. So we have 60 hertz. So that's 60 frames, 60 frames per second. Okay, so it's flashing, it's refreshing 60 times in 1 second. But for each one of those frames, the plasma is flashing 10 times. And out of those 10 times, 3 or 2 of those are very bright flashes. The rest of it is black. So my point is, you cannot compare a sample on hold display with a plasma, because the plasma has better motion, and it has better motion because it has black periods. And because it has those black periods, you perceive less brightness. So what I'm saying right now is, roughly, okay, this is not accurate 100%, but roughly, if a plasma is 100 nits full screen, the flashes are like 400 nits. Okay, and there's no OLED TV right now that can do 400 nits full screen on the market, as far as I know, unless it's like an inkjet printed OLED. I think they do have higher full screen brightness. So it doesn't make sense. The plasma is brighter and it's not even close. Okay, that Samsung F8500, I think it is crazy bright. To just compare that with a QD OLED and be close, that's insane how bright the flashes of that TV are. But it's turning black. And it's turning black to improve the motion in almost 4x. So you cannot say, oh yeah, the QD OLED is brighter. It's not. It is not brighter. If you reduce the persistence of the QD OLED to match the plasma, then it was not gonna be close. A QD OLED is like 250 nits full screen, which is great. Maximum, I'm saying. That S95C Digital Trends was comparing with the plasma. If you reduce the persistence 4 times, just divide 2500, so 250, divide that by 4. It's not close. It's not even close to a plasma, to any plasma really. So you cannot compare that, in my opinion. Stoneborn says, my LG CX65 has black level rays only with BFI, and no matter what I try. What do you think that is? Huh. So you're saying that the blacks, so you lose perfect blacks when you turn on BFI? I don't know. that seems all the opposite to what I see on the C1. So if that's happening, what can you do? Just lower the screen brightness, the black level, lower that 1 or 2 clicks until you get perfect blacks. So what I would do, if you turn on OLED Motion Pro on the CX and you no longer have perfect blacks, that's a problem. And I would crush that to have perfect black. So I will go screen brightness, lower that to 49 or 48 until you get perfect blacks. And then after doing that, if it looks too dark now, then go and do a 22-point calibration to raise the visibility. That's what I would do. But if you are saying that it looks washed out, but you still have perfect blacks, then just do a 22-point calibration and lower the visibility. I'm not sure. No one has ever told me that the CX has that issue with BFI. All the opposite. People usually say that it looks too dim. The CX at 60 FPS looks like 200. It looks like the C1 at 120. And at 120, the CX looks exactly the same as 60, but it looks a little bit brighter. And of course, it flickers a lot less, and the input lag is better, of course. So that's different from the C1. It is different from the C1. The C1 is brighter at 60, and it has less motion clarity than the CX. And it is dimmer at 120, and it has the same motion clarity as the CX, which in my testing is 3.2 milliseconds of persistence. That's what I see, 3.2 milliseconds. Nate the Bard says, I play bass guitar and composing music for fun. That's the way to go, man. I think everyone, if you have the talent, because you see, I teach guitar, and for my private lessons, I do not teach everyone, even if they pay me a lot of money. If someone doesn't have the musical ear, I don't teach them. And the reason is I cannot teach that. You have to born with a musical ear. And I've seen some teachers claim that, oh, I can actually teach to have musical ear. And no one has ever been able to demonstrate that that's actually possible. So what I'm saying right now is, if you are lucky enough to born with a musical ear, you should definitely play an instrument or do something with music, because it is a different kind of intelligence that you have. You should definitely nurture. Matt Ellen says, every time you improve at bench press, you'll be happiest man alive. Absolutely, man. And I mean, with exercises, it's double. It's double, because you improve physically, but it also makes you feel better with yourself mentally. You get stronger too. So I mean, exercise is a win-win. I mean, if it's the best deal, in my opinion. Like, exercising is the best deal you can have with yourself, and it's not close. I mean, it's just, and everyone knows that it's so much better. Like, it's Mr. M says, I have monitor with TB400, and I have the image overall brighter, but highlights are overblown. But HDR 1000 mode have nice highlights displayed, but overall image is a 1.5 notch darker in full screen. So you're saying your display is like one of those 400, certified 400, but it has a 1000 nits mode. Yeah, a lot of monitors are like that now. You see, the problem I see with those monitors, and I watched the reviews of, not all of them, but most of the reviews from Monitors Unboxed, uh, and the problem I see with those is the calibration. The EOTF tracking is so terrible sometimes. I don't understand. They are not going to professionally calibrate everything so it is perfect out of the box, because they would need to use the monitor to begin with. You would not get a brand new monitor. They have to let it break in and warm up and have like 100 hours at least, or something like that. And it might not be cost effective, the work, or you would have to pay for it. Basically, the monitor would be more expensive. But the thing is, you cannot just have these monitors looking so terrible, so badly calibrated on HDR. You see the EOTF tracking is either like over tracking the EOTF and looks overly bright everywhere, or is crushing blacks. Is a mess. It's a total mess. So, and then the biggest problem with monitors then is that you have no calibration controls. You turn on HDR and there's no settings. So then you have terrible EOTF tracking and no settings to fix it. So my recommendation for that is you need to, what I would recommend you, if you get one of those monitors, because it's still a great monitor, it's an OLED, 240 hertz or more, and you already have it, so you're not gonna return it. Okay, what are you gonna do? So what I would do is watch a review from Monitors Unboxed. If he has a review of that monitor, or a different channel, I've seen reviews from the display guy. Watch a review, or the RTX website, where they tell you, sometimes they tell you all those details. And then you need to know, okay, what is this monitor? How is the calibration of this monitor roughly? Is it crushing blacks? Is it over tracking the EOTF? Is it under tracking? So what's going on? And once you know what the problem is, use ReShade to change the content. You need to be a master of changing the content so it looks perfect in your monitor. So maybe it doesn't look great on a reference monitor, but it's gonna look perfect in your monitor. So for example, if your monitor is crushing blacks, guess what? What are you gonna do? Raise the visibility near black. So that's gonna look washed out on my LG C1, but it's gonna look perfect in your monitor. And that's what matters. So what I'm saying right now is the creative intent can be achieved on your monitor if it's good enough, or closer, or the closest thing. But it might have to be modified. So basically what I'm saying right now is, let's say you have a reference monitor and the creator tells you, okay, this is how I want this game to look like. This is perfect for me. Now you grab that same game and you play it on your monitor and it's crushing blacks. It looks too dark or it looks too bright. You use ReShade and you make it look exactly the same as the reference monitor. Of course, let's take the ABL out of the conversation. A reference monitor can give you a lot more full screen brightness, but let's get that out of the equation. You can definitely make the game look exactly the same as on the reference monitor, but you would have to change the content itself using ReShade. And if you do that, then no problem at all. It doesn't matter. You know already what you have to do on every game to make it look the best on your monitor. And that's what I would recommend you to pursue. Mr. M says, content brightness. I can't decide which mode is more accurate. Well, I think so I would go with the brightest one. I would go with the 1000 nits mode. If you get 1000 nits in a 1% window or 10%, I would go with that and then change the content. That's what I would do. Unless the 400 mode looks so much more, appears so much more brighter full screen. But the difference shouldn't be that big. But let's say you have HDR 400 and it has like no ABL. I haven't seen that, but let's say you get 400 nits full screen, no ABL. Yeah, that might be better. But you're not gonna get the HDR impact of the highlights. But yeah, 400 nits full screen would be great. That might be something to consider. Otherwise, the 1000 nits should be the best looking. You just have to change the content. Blaviken says, hey Ariel, what are your thoughts on NVIDIA RTX HDR in terms of its accuracy? Is it worth compromising performance for? So there's no accuracy really here to consider, because accuracy is the creator's intent. As simple as that. For gaming, what are we doing all the time? Oh, I don't like this, I'm just turning it off. I don't like. What is the creator's intent in gaming? When you open a new game, we get by default chromatic aberration, film grain, motion blur, vignette, so much crap that we turn off. So that's the creator's intent. So beginning with that, I couldn't care less about their intent. It just looks terrible. So then the other thing is, if the game doesn't even support HDR, who cares? There's no creative intent if you're doing an auto HDR trick. And if the HDR from the game looks terrible, I care even less about the creative intent. So basically, in my opinion, RTX HDR is just enhancing how the game looks. Full stop. It just looks better. And it looks better all the time, and the gamma looks right. So I definitely think that the performance hit is worth it. But they should fix that. It shouldn't cost that much performance, in my opinion. But it is perfect, and I highly recommend it. RTX HDR. NVIDIA knows what they do, man. Every time they do something, they just knock it out of the park. They got these new monitors, these new LCD monitors with ULMB 2.0. They are crazy good. The motion on those monitors are incredible. And it's just a shame they are LCDs, man. If they are LCDs and you don't get you don't get those with mini LED level of contrast. It's like just pure LCD. It looks terrible. Just the picture quality, because of that, the contrast, it's just bad. But the way they nailed the strobing, the technology, and have the least amount of crosstalk, and it's incredible. What I've seen, the screenshots and the pictures that I've seen from it, it's just absolutely unbelievable. So NVIDIA, every time they do something, it just works, man. So you have to give them your money, man. They are very good. So yeah, I want to do a reaction to the when they announced the 5090, and I have a bunch of cash. I'm talking about big pile of cash that I have, and I want to do a reaction, just just throwing cash to the screen like that. It's something funny. We could be the first to do that. That's my idea. Yeah, we can do that. What's up, Astria Kaito? Astri says, does perfect black and perfect HDR is real. Perfect black and perfect HDR. So, I mean, perfect HDR would be the standard, basically. Some people say HDR doesn't have a standard. HDR has many standards. When you use, well, some people might say, oh, it only has one standard, it's a PQ, EOTF, or something like that. But there are different. When you use ReShade, you see that there are different tone mapping standards and stuff like that. But to have perfect HDR, and I'm not an expert, I'm just telling you what I've my experience, what I've read, and what I've seen. For perfect HDR, we need 10,000 nits. That's the end of the EOTF. We need 10,000 nits, no ABL, 10,000 nits full screen, and we need perfect tracking, so perfect EOTF tracking, and it would go perfect until 10,000 nits, and it would hard clip at 10,000 nits, and then the gamut should be like 100% BD 2020 coverage. I don't think it might not be possible. Maybe 99 or something like that might be possible. So yeah, and of course, perfect blacks per pixel, and it's self-emissive. So yeah, I think we're far away from that. But I don't think the brightness is the biggest problem. LCDs can do 10,000 nits. Actually, there is like a 10,000 nits. There have been 10,000 nits LCDs from 2008, I believe. There was a Sony TV from 2008. It was not, they were not selling it to the public, but yeah, 10,000 nits is possible with LCDs, but you need those perfect blacks for perfect HDR, and LCDs are never gonna give you that with per pixel control. It's gonna be, once we have enough dimming zones, there's not gonna matter a lot. But then you have the input lag. So the input lag is never gonna be as good as OLED. So yeah, but once we have like 40,000 dimming zone or something like that, maybe it's not gonna matter that much. I watched a video from the display guy, and he used like a program or something where he had a picture with, he was saying, okay, how many dimming zones do we need for it to not matter that much to get more? So basically, what's the diminishing returns? You get more dimming zones for mini LED. So how many do we really need for it to be like, okay, this is better than OLED? It's a lot brighter, and yeah, the OLED contrast is better, but it's not that much. I cannot see the difference that much anyway. So I much rather have a brighter mini LED, and that's cheaper too. So I think he concluded that like 20,000 nits. So he was basically switching back and forth from 10,000 to 20,000 to 5,000, and you could see the difference. Like imagine like a low resolution image. Yeah, he was switching back and forth, and like 20,000 would be plenty for it to be like, okay, this is better than OLED already. It's cheaper, brighter. Who cares about more dimming zones? Now, I think the thing is the algorithm also needs to be very good. So a TV that has more dimming zones is not automatically just better. So the processing of that is also important. So yeah. Yeah, a lot of tweaking needs to be done, bro. It's just HDR gaming. The pixel peppers. Yeah, StreamYard is free, but with a free version, you cannot do multiple streams. What would be the specification of your perfect TV for both gaming and movies in terms of BFI, frequency response, times, brightness, etc., and which current TV is the closest to your perfect spec? Hmm. So that's very, very hard to answer. But right now, if they could make a TV, like right now, let's say I have a family member that is a friend of the Samsung CEO or something like that, like if I have the power to right now tell this company, okay, this is a TV that I want, just do this for me, that would be great. Let me tell you, that TV will be perfect. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be a lot better than what we have for sure. But yeah, the thing is, with OLEDs, we cannot get too crazy with the flickering with the BFI because they are not bright enough. But and also, I asked the Blurbusters chief, and he said that right now it's hard to get it better than 2 milliseconds of persistence because of other limitations. So basically, VR headsets, that's where it's at. When it comes to motion clarity, VR headsets are the best, and they are the best because they have to be the best to prevent motion sickness. So the VR headsets that are OLEDs, like the PS5 VR headset, which you can get it working on the PC now, by the way. I saw that. But VR is a mess as it is, so now you want to add that's not even compatible out of the box. I don't think that's a good idea. But anyway, the PS5 VR headset is OLED. It supports HDR, which is the biggest thing. Is OLED. It also has HDR support, and it has 2 milliseconds of persistence. So 2 milliseconds of persistence is equal to 2 pixels of motion blur when moving at 1,000 pixels per second. But what that means is that it looks like a 480 hertz OLED at 480 frames per second. It looks like it in motion. It's not exactly the same, but it's going to appear the same in motion. So that's very good. That's very, very good. But the thing is, my point is, with OLEDs, we just need a higher refresh rate, and we can get that. We can get that. 1,000 hertz will be here. If it's not next year, the year after that, for sure. 1,000 hertz OLEDs will be a reality. Now, the problem is, how can you get 1,000 frames per second? You start introducing some artifacts with motion interpolation or with asynchronous reprojection. But I believe that they will nail that at some point. So there's going to come a point where you just really need like 100 frames or a little bit more, and the rest of the frames are going to be delivered to your display using a combination of asynchronous reprojection and frame generation and AI to remove the imperfections and all the artifacts. And that's gonna be great. Because let me tell you, a lot of people don't like that with frame generation, the input lag is worse, right? But with asynchronous reprojection, the input lag is perfect. There's no penalty whatsoever to the input lag. And actually, there is a demo that you can try today, and you can see that for yourself. This demo can make 30 FPS look like 1,000 right now. Like right now, you get one of those displays, like 1,000 hertz displays. You get that demo, 30 FPS, it looks like 1,000. Of course, you're going to see artifacts. And you're going to see the artifacts, not artifacts, it's like you will see the asynchronous reprojection limitation, which is basically occlusion artifacts. And on the sides of the screen, you will see something funky going on. But if you increase the FPS from 30 to 60, now you see a lot less problems. From 60 to 120, you probably you don't see any problem. So that's the goal. That's the future of gaming. You have a game, your system is only processing like 100, 120 frames, maybe a little bit more. And the rest of the frames are delivered with these tricks. And that's better than BFI. Okay. But the problem is we are not there yet. And I want to play today. I don't want to play, 3, 4, 5 years from now once we have that perfect motion. I want that perfect motion right now. And it is possible right now with BFI. And we can get something better with BFI. And we have it with LCD monitors. With these ULMB monitors, yeah, they're great. But the picture quality is terrible. So what's my perfect display right now? I don't think there is. It could be made. And I think I would go with inkjet printed OLED with these J OLEDs from TCL. So probably if there's a company I would work with to make my perfect display would be TCL. And actually, I'm very excited about the 8K glassless 3D monitors that they have coming. That's gonna be great. That's a real upgrade. So inkjet printed is true RGB, so no white subpixel washing out the colors. It has a higher full screen brightness, and it sure can do BFI. And if it's brighter, full screen, it might do a better job. Now, the G4, I believe the G4 could have a BFI edition that would be just perfect, because you can, if the TV can do a scrolling like the C1, and it should be able to do that. I mean, the C1 can do it. Why not the G4? I don't believe that the MLA or they trying to have more space between the subpixels because of the heat or whatever. That's just marketing. That's just PR nonsense to justify that they remove 120 BFI. I don't believe that. So I truly believe the G4 can have 120 BFI, no issue. Now the G4 being able to do 1500 nits, almost 1500 nits on a 10% window, why not? If they just scroll 1500 nits on a 10% window, so you have 10% of the frame on the screen, okay? So I'm talking about a 10% of the frame here at the top. The display is refreshing left to right, top to bottom. So if you have 10% of the frame, 1500 nits, and you scroll that down and the rest is black, that should be possible, or something close to that should be possible. So what is the brightness loss if you do that? Well, based on the Talbot-Plateau's law, if you have 1500 nits on a 10% window, you do the math, you get 150 nits full screen. Is that bright enough? That's very bright. That's awesome. So if you do that, you are going from 8 milliseconds of persistence, 8.3 milliseconds of persistence at 120 hertz, 120 FPS, sample on hold. You're going from 8 to 0.8 milliseconds of persistence. So that would be less than 1 millisecond of persistence. That would be perfect motion. Now, the thing is, the Blurbuster's chief told me that's not possible. I mean, not exactly that, but I did get from him that 2 milliseconds is with OLED right now. He told me, no, you cannot do better than 2 milliseconds. So all this math that you're doing, that's not gonna work. So yeah, he knows better. I mean, he's the motion clarity god. But yeah, I would like them to try, man. And if it's 2, that's okay. 2, it would be great. 2 milliseconds of persistence would be great. So yeah, and QD OLEDs could do that. I don't know why we don't have QD OLEDs with this PWM strobing. I don't know why. It should be possible because it's a backlight. It's like basically it's a quantum dot layer with an OLED backlight. Why not? Why can't you just manipulate that OLED backlight? It sounds like a perfect technology to do BFI. So yeah, basically for my perfect TV, they would have to design it for me. Is the answer. Krimbo says, "Hello Plasma. I know you've been rocking the LG C1 because of BFI and such. But if you had to switch to any other TV, what would it be?" I would like an inkjet printed OLED. That's what I would like. Probably one of these upcoming TCL TVs they're gonna be glassless 3D. That's probably gonna be, and I might buy that, man. I'm not wanting to spend a lot of money right now because I spend crazy money, more than, again, last year I spent more money than in my entire life for the last year, the last 12 months. It's not close. So yeah, I don't want to have to spend money, but if I were to buy another display, that would be probably it. The 3Ds, I like 3D a lot, and inkjet printed OLED, I haven't seen it in person, but I mean I have a phone, so it's not that far away. It's true RGB, perfect glossy screen, like it's not gonna look washed out under lighting conditions. Viewing angles, full screen brightness is gonna be better. That I think that's the one I would go with. I'm not a big fan of QD OLED just because they look terrible on the store. You go to the store and those QD OLEDs under lighting conditions look absolutely terrible. I know you take it home, you turn off the lights, and it might look great, but the thing is, yeah, that's the thing. But they are great. So if it was not an inkjet printer, probably QD OLED might be the best. But yeah, maybe an S90C. I might still get that on Black Friday. Like if the S90C drops to like, I don't know, $800, like the S95B drop. I mean, that's hard to pass. I might get that. Astori says, real by meaning that it was what developer want or just for our satisfaction. Real by meaning. Yeah, so the creative intent is it's not really important, man. It just needs to look good on our screen. That's what gaming is all about. People mod the games all the time to make it look different, look better for them. Nathan says, "Hey Ariel, I have an LG C1 and just started playing Dark Souls 3, but there's no HDR. What alternative can I use to have a great picture quality for the best experience?" So Dark Souls 3, you have auto HDR, but you have to use the ICC profile that I share with you, or the other technique to do the sRGB to gamma 2.2 conversion for the auto HDR to look great in Dark Souls 3. But you could use RTX HDR. Dark Souls 3 is not very demanding. So RTX HDR is going to look perfect and you don't have to go through the hassle. It's just going to look great. Real thing is, how can you play Dark Souls 3 at 120 with HDR? Because there's a mod that I tried, but you can only use the mod with borderless screen, borderless mode. And I believe the problem was I was getting screen tearing for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, I would definitely want to play Dark Souls 3 at 120. Um, I don't remember what was the problem with that. So that might give you an issue with the HDR option. Maybe the NVIDIA, the RTX HDR doesn't work well. So you have to try those, but that's what I would go with. If you need more performance, Auto HDR. If you have performance to spare, RTX HDR. You better try. Also, the other issue is if you want to use lossless scaling. If the game is locked to 60 and the mod doesn't work well or something, you want to get 120 FPS, you can try lossless scaling. But the problem with lossless scaling sometimes is that you need either full screen or window editor. So then that might be another issue. So it's not easy. It's not like just, oh, this is the way to go. It's gonna work. We have to try what we have available and see which one works the best. So Bubble God Gaming says, Plasma, would you ever consider coming up with your own shaders for retro arch? I don't know enough to do that, man. I am not an expert on reshade. People who work on reshade, sometimes they are programmers, people who know a lot. I know a little bit about programming, but I'm not at that level. I don't know. I probably never. I mean, there's a lot of talented people who work on those things, and I just learn how to use them. I think that's the best we can do. Tempo says RTX HDR or Special K. Only downside of RTX HDR being FPS cost plus no DSR option. They fixed that actually. RTX HDR now works with DLDSR. It was not working at the beginning, but it's now working. Check it out. I tested that in games, and sometimes if the game doesn't support RTX HDR, you can force it on the menu on the NVIDIA app. You just go, you select the app, and you force it there. So basically, if you press Alt F3 and it tells you a supported game is required or something like that, you just force the RTX HDR on the app and it should work. And I think it is working now with the LDSR. They fixed it. But to your question, a Special K is probably the most powerful tool. Let's say the most advanced tool, and it can do a lot of good things. I have to get more into it. And you can use a Special K, and you can integrate ReShade inside a Special K. So you don't have to open a Special K, the game with a Special K, and then separately ReShade, because they're going to conflict with each other and it's going to crash sometimes. What you have to do is you have to open the game with a Special K. You have to add, have ReShade as an add-on to a Special K. And that's the best combination. Because a Special K can do some good things with the input lag and improving the frame pacing. Is a great tool. I have to get more into it, honestly. But the HDR of a Special K is not perfect, man. It takes some tweaking, and that's why I have not promoted it that much, because it takes some tweaking. It's more difficult to nail. But it does have some very cool quality improvements, features. Like it can improve the bit depth, the bit rate. Basically, it can give you a higher fidelity, higher quality HDR. It does have some options for that, and it has an option that people told me it is kind of broken. It has an option to remaster the HDR quality, and the performance hit is massive. You basically cut your FPS in half for that HDR with a Special K. So that's a no-go for sure. But if it looks much better is something um, you know, cool to try. But I don't see it looking any better. I think it's broken. People are telling me that's not working yet, or it's not improving it too much. Lobstrosity says, just got a new Samsung G8, the QD OLED monitor, and it looks amazing. Thanks to your guides and fixes. Well, thank you very much, man. That's what I've been focusing on fixing the source. Because if you fix the source, that works for all TVs and monitors. I think that's what we have to learn how to do. Because you see, before knowing how to change the source, I would be more concerned if I'm going to buy a monitor or a TV. I would be more concerned about the accuracy of the monitor or TV and the settings that I have available. Because if I have no settings and I cannot fix the game, then that's that monitor. I cannot do anything with that monitor. So it's not gonna be useful. But with the ability of changing the game, the source, it doesn't really matter that much. If the monitor is not tracking the EOTF and is crushing blacks or whatever, you just change the game, change the content, and change it so it looks perfect in your monitor. And that's the way to go. Andrew says, our things will usually have the PQ curve if they tested your TV. Also nits per percent window. Yeah, our things does a great job with those, man. They're probably the best. The only thing keeping me away from OLED is burning. Do OLEDs burning faster than CRT? No, probably not. You see, CRTs are crazy bright. CRTs can be 30,000 nits. So the line, because the CRT is flashing a line top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, very fast. That's why the persistence is low. So that flash, that line is like 30,000 nits. It's crazy bright. But of course, because of the Talbot-Plateau's law, we get the average brightness in time. So we don't see 30,000 nits, of course not. Of course, it could be more or less. It depends on the CRT. But they are crazy bright. But yeah, they do burning. But yeah, I think OLEDs might be better than that, honestly. But I don't know. I don't have enough data or testing to be sure. What I can tell you is, if you learn how to take care of your OLED, you will never get that burning. Of course, it will burning at some point, but it will outlive its usefulness, in my opinion, if you take care of it. So basically what I'm saying is something else is going to break. The power supply, something else on the TV or monitor is going to break before it is unusable due to burning, if you take care of it. So how do you take care of it? Well, if you're using it on Windows, just use a high contrast theme like I use. You see that my Windows looks super weird. High contrast theme. I have everything is black. No wallpaper. I've seen people using an OLED with a wallpaper and the taskbar. That's crazy. You're going to burn that in for sure. No question about it. So don't do that. Hide the taskbar, man. And also, when you hide the taskbar, there is a thin line. You can hide that with an app that you can get free on the Microsoft Store that is called TB Window. I think that's the name of it. So with that app, you can hide that last thin line. Yes, you have to hide that too, because that's going to burn in. So hide that. And if you do editing or something like that, or you use a software all the time and you're concerned about it burning in, My recommendation is change the size. If you can change the size of the windows, so then now things are on a different place because they are bigger or smaller, then that's going to reduce the chance of burning. So, for example, for desktop usage, once in a while, change the percentage, the scaling. Change the scaling. It's that simple. So change it to 150%, then 180, and 200, then go back to 100. See, so you're all the time you're changing the size of the things. That's a lot. That's gonna make it a lot less likely to get burning. So yeah, so I wouldn't be concerned at all if you do that. So you have to babysit the OLED. Have you tried a good mini LED with high peak brightness on big window sizes? No, I have not tried them. I would like to, but yeah, I mean, I would like to get some review samples, but monitors are more possible. TVs are way too expensive. I don't think any TV company is gonna send me a review sample. But I would like to try monitors. You get some of those mini LED monitors that have good BFI. I would like to try those, and I can definitely give you some input on that. One last question from me: is the best way to play 60 FPS locked games, Switch, etc., with lossless scaling 2x plus RTX HDR? Any other programs I should be using to enhance it more? Well, lossless scaling is not working well with RTX HDR. It doesn't work. I reached out to the developer and he sent me a screenshot of someone getting it working, but it looks messed up. The gamma looks messed up. Something happened here that is not working. And the problem is, I believe, let me see, how can I, it's like HDR on top of HDR. So yeah, basically you add RTX HDR to lossless scaling, then lossless scaling is taking over, but then RTX HDR is also enabled in the game. So you cannot have RTX HDR enabled for just one thing. If you go to the menu or to the NVIDIA app and you manually select lossless scaling with RTX HDR or without it, and then the game with, it doesn't work. So we would need to find a way to just have RTX HDR for one of them. I believe that's what the problem is. But the thing is, for whatever reason, it's not working together. So with lossless scaling, you have to use something else, auto HDR or something different. So yeah, that was the best way to play 60 FPS locked. Is to get more frames, basically. Well, you can use BFI. I mean, let me tell you, LCD TVs can do great 60 FPS strobing. That Sony TV that I tested at 60 FPS looks like a CRT. Fantastic. No visible flickering for me. So no annoying flickering at 60 FPS, and it looks like a CRT. Incredible. I just, if I have an interview, man, if I ever have the chance to speak with a Sony representative, I'm gonna ask them that question, and I'm just gonna tell them, I feel so strong about that. It just makes no sense to be able to have that technology, which is so great, so fantastic, and then suddenly, okay, yeah, we're just not gonna do it anymore. It's nonsense. Like, why would you, for example, if they know how to make the TV 3D, for example, why are you gonna remove that? Why? Because there's no 3D content? No, because the TV can simulate 3D. Why are you gonna remove that feature? Because it costs more money. If you already developed the technology, You're gonna tell me that piece of software or whatever you have to put on the back or hardware that costs more money. How much more? Like $50 more? Come on, man. Just keep the features you already have. Keep the improvements you already have. Technology should move forward and be always better. Always better. And for some reason, display technologies give one step forward and three steps back sometimes. And you start losing features, you lose your BFI, you lose 3D. Why? It's nonsense, man. I just don't understand. But yeah, basically my point is if you get 60 FPS on one of those Sony TVs with the motion flow 480 or better, that's all you need. You don't need any motion interpolation, nothing. It just looks like a CRT. Seems hard to find a display that can do both peak brightness on small details and big windows that I know of. Only small AMOLED screens can do it consistently. Yeah, the screen of my Samsung S23 Ultra is crazy bright full screen. It's amazing. Tom says, I've already asked under one of your videos, but until you will make a video of it, do we have available anywhere the metrics for a proper HDR and color calibration for games? The metrics. See, HDR is a standard. They just need to follow the standard and make sure that it looks good. I just don't know. They don't test the games, man. That's what's going on. They add HDR and they just don't try it. They don't care to test that. Because nobody talks about it. Almost nobody. Rarely you see Digital Foundry talking about, the game looks washed out or something like that. It's rare. They focus on other things. So the game could be great. But if it looks washed out, who cares about ray tracing or whatever? That's going to look bad. So yeah, it's like something very, very basic and they get wrong all the time. Okay, what's your opinion on a PS5 Pro, man? Oh, man, you're not going to like it. A lot of people not going to like my opinion about the PS5 Pro. I think it's bad. And the reason is, if they have a PS5 Pro that's more powerful, of course, then we are going to get games that run even worse. And it's that simple. That's why I don't like the PS5 Pro. So expect PS5 games to start to be 30 FPS only, like no performance mode, nothing. And then if you want 60, buy the PS5 Pro. That just makes sense for them. No? That's not what I would do, of course not. So I don't think it's a good idea for me. I play on the PC. If you want a PS5 Pro, of course, that's a good idea for you. You're going to enjoy a better experience, but we don't need more power to get games looking better and to have a higher frame rate. We just need the developers to use the power that we have so we can get that frame rate. Getting 60 FPS is not a problem at all with the power that the PS5 have. The problem is that you want to push the boundaries because, and there's nothing wrong with pushing the boundaries. Okay, don't get me wrong. We need to move forward, but we cannot move forward, and we shouldn't be moving forward when going back in clarity, sharpness, frame rate, performance. It makes no sense. So my opinion is, give me 60, give me, and not even 60. I mean, my opinion is give me 120. Most of the TVs we have on the market are 120 hertz. So 120 FPS should be the norm, in my opinion. But let's say that, okay, you're gonna play a single player game, 60 FPS might be enough. Yeah, especially if you have CRTs, which we don't have anymore, but or one of these good strobing TVs. But you cannot go back to 30 FPS to increase the resolution or the lighting quality or ray tracing. That makes no sense. If I am in charge and they tell me, hey, we're gonna improve how the game looks and this and that, I'm like, okay, well, sounds good, but we have to lower the resolution, lower the frame rate, make it blurry, add a bunch of post-processing garbage. I'm like, why would you do that? So you're telling me the game is not going to look clear, crisp, and run well anymore, so then you can add all that crap? That doesn't make any sense. That's not moving forward, in my opinion. That's not that's like cheating. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense, man. Any sense. People playing with a 4090 at 60 FPS. What are you doing, man? Like, it just makes no sense. So yeah, I don't like the idea of we need a more powerful console, because that means these developers are gonna try to use that power in the wrong way. That's my opinion. Thanks for talking so much about PC gaming on TVs. Leaving the desk was a one-way trip. For sure, man. There's no going back. I mean, the TV is just better for gaming. It's more immersive. No question about that. Tom says, like, how to know if you haven't oversaturated the colors while stretching the color gamut? Well, you are definitely oversaturating the colors. I think you're referring to Auto HDR or RTX HDR. But the reason why we have more colorful TVs is because it looks better. So it doesn't matter that, for example, let's say you have an accurate SDR movie, okay? And blood looks like blood. Okay. Well, if you have a TV that can give you a more colorful picture, and that blood looks now more red, and you are overly saturating the blood, but it looks closer to real life, then that's good. I don't see anything wrong with that. So in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense to restrict the performance of a high-end display to make it comply with the SDR standards, for example. The SDR standards make absolutely no sense if you have an HDR capable display. It just doesn't. Why? It's like you have a 4K TV and we're going to watch this movie at 1080p because that was the creative intent. No, that's because that was the camera that they had. So why would you do that? It's more pixels, more colorful, better contrast, more brightness is better, period, and will look better. So accuracy, when accuracy means getting less performance, getting something that doesn't look as good as it could look on your display, it makes no sense. Accuracy on HDR, on the other hand, makes sense because an accurate HDR will look the best. If the content looks good, of course. But basically the standard, it look great. I have no issue with that. But yeah, that's my take on that. What's your opinion on the PS5 Pro leak specs? What do you think it could do against the PS5 regular? Well, they are saying that it's going to be a ray tracing monster. And that's a bad idea, man. That's a very bad idea. And the thing is, I understand Sony, they just want to sell consoles. And how are you going to sell to people that you're just getting higher FPS and higher resolution? People don't understand that. I mean, the regular public have no clue what that means. But if you're going to use your marketing with RTX, with ray tracing, and you tell people, "Oh, a game is just gonna look better." You look at side by side pictures, or so. That's easier to sell. I understand that, but ray tracing on a console makes absolutely no sense for the same reason that I'm explaining, which is basically you need to lower the pixel density, you need to make the game look blurrier and run poorly with less frames. That's not worth it. It makes no sense to try to push ray tracing on a console. I mean, I am sure most people with a 4090 turn off ray tracing. Why would you try to get that working on a console? And then the problem with the console is that you don't have settings. If it was a toggle that you can turn it off, no problem. But they are releasing these games with ray tracing in performance mode and quality mode and all the modes. That you have this Star Wars Outlaws with ray tracing on the console in terrible performance. That doesn't make any sense, bro. Turn that off. Turn ray tracing off and get better performance, more pixels. It just is next level stupid, in my opinion. And it's all because of this marketing hype. And I have to say, man, these big YouTube channels pushing ray tracing because they like it's a great technology, man. Don't get me wrong, but we are not ready for it. So there's going to come a day where you turn on ray tracing and you get better performance. Why? Imagine the GPU has enough RT cores and enough power. So when you actually using ray tracing, it doesn't have to work on the other stuff, and you even get better performance, or you lose no performance at all. Then that's great. You're replacing the entire lighting and shadows and everything, reflections, everything of the game. You're replacing that with something that your GPU can process even better, and it looks better. Go for it. I have no issue with it. But we're not there yet, man. And the performance hit is just way too big. It makes no sense. Julian said, "Is it possible to live stream in HDR?" Yeah, there's a YouTube channel that show how to do that. I forgot his name. He's like a red beard guy. I have to check that out, but yeah, it is possible. Pavel says, "I have decided to buy an LG G2 over the S90C simply because I heard that Samsung quality control and build quality is not very good. But I'm still thinking if I didn't make a mistake." If you already bought it, man, be happy with it. Be happy with it. Don't think about it. You probably got a great deal because a G2 at this point, you probably got it for a steal of a deal. And if you care about build quality, the G2 is a tank. The G2, the build quality of the G2 is fantastic. So, just don't think about it. So yeah, I need your live stream link. I don't know how to even get that. Then I can join from StreamYard. Okay, I have to figure that out. Couture says, "I tried RTX HDR, but it seems to never work. I have an RTX 2060. Never work." Well, go and wipe out the GPU drivers. Just uninstall the drivers. Go to the device manager and right click on your GPU and uninstall the drivers. And then go download the drivers from NVIDIA, the latest drivers, and install that and install the NVIDIA app. And that should fix it. What do you think of the CRT boom we are in right now? Trinitrons have gotten ridiculously expensive, especially PC monitors. Oh, yeah. CRTs are great, man. The only problem I have is the size. They're just too small. That's my only problem. But they are so good, man, so good. But let me tell you, the FW900, which was popularized by Digital Foundry, is not the best when it comes to motion. It has like 4 milliseconds of persistence. From what I've heard, I've never tested it myself, but it's not the best. It doesn't have the best motion, so it shouldn't be that expensive. Yeah, I wouldn't pay that much for a CRT, especially. I mean, if you know how to fix them, if you are like uh, retro RT, I think is this YouTube channel. He's like an expert. He can fix them. He can, change the boards and do all of that. Yeah, no problem. Because if it breaks, you can always, replace the capacitors and repair them. Otherwise, I mean, that thing can break any day, because we're talking about a 20-year-old plus 20-year plus old display. So yeah, man. Let me see how much comments I have. Okay, wow. Okay, so we are getting close to 2 hours. I said I'm gonna read all the comments. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read all the comments starting from this last one to the top, and then I'm gonna finish the stream. Otherwise, I'll be here all day. So ABC says, at a scan line, there's no persistence. It is nearly 1 nanosecond. At a scan line, there's no persistence. I'm not sure what you're referring to. ABC 2060 owner proudly has an HDR monitor. Let's see. Pretty good advice. If it ain't broke, just be happy with it. Absolutely, man. I mean, and yeah, man, buyer's remorse. It always happens, man, and it happened to me too. You buy a new thing, and then you go and you search online to see if you did the right decision. But you have to think about, there's always something better you can get. You never get the best deal. Never. There's always a better deal to get. But you need to get something, one day. You might get the latest and greatest, and have the best for one day, the next day something else comes out. So just get something and be happy with it, man. A lot of people have the latest and greatest, and they buy the latest thing all the time, and they are never happy with what they have. And on this channel, I've tried to promote, really be happy with what you have, learn how to make the best out of it, and that's the way to go, man. That's the way to go. Just try to get the most out of what you already have. That's better than just chasing all the time, buying new things, and not being satisfied. See, I'm very happy with what I have, man. Take a moment to appreciate what you have, not only for tech stuff, for everything, and you will realize how lucky you are. Cuban Legend says, for those of us looking to get into OLED TV gaming, do you still recommend the LG C1 or 83 model? And where do you recommend we find a good one? Well, if you can get a used LG C1 on Facebook Marketplace for like $600 or less, that would be great. Just make sure it is in good shape. But if you don't have it available, get something. Yeah, the thing is the BFI 120 BFI. If you care about that, you need to get a CX or a C1. Fortunately, LG removed that thing. Otherwise, I mean, it will be a no-brainer. If you want an OLED, just get the latest one if the price is right, or get last year TV to get a better price. That would be a very simple answer, but they removed that, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, get a C1, a cheap C1 in the used market if you can, or G1. A G1 would be a little bit better. Uh, but yeah, otherwise, if you're gonna get something from today, you're not gonna go wrong. C4 is better than the C1 in every way. It just doesn't have the 120 BF5. Or get a QD OLED. You're gonna get a better screen uniformity, higher color saturation. It's gonna appear brighter too. So yeah, you cannot go wrong with OLED. Honestly, anything you get is gonna be great. Psycho Crusher says, before you can enjoy a game console, you're already making another one instead of making better games for that console. Before you can enjoy a game console, they're already making another one instead of. Um, yeah, I mean, it's always moving forward. More power. How many gigabytes? Ray tracing hype. GPU from the PS5 Pro is much like a 3080. Oh, well, I'm in big trouble then. Amazed my 3080 is barely gonna give me 1080p 60 FPS, which is already happening. I am barely getting 60 FPS at 1080p. That's crazy. I have to play on my plasma TV. That's what I have to do. What's your favorite thing about plasma TVs? If there is anything you think they could improve with the LG OLEDs, um, the colors and the motion. The motion is not better than CRTs, but it's good enough. I think the motion on the plasma TVs is good to a point where motion doesn't bother me. So of course I would like it to be more clear, but it's good enough. I like it like that. Um, just need to be brighter. It's the only thing that they are not bright. At least the one that I have is not very bright. The Pioneer Kuro. It's not bright at all, but it looks fantastic. Let me tell you. You see how good that thing looks, and I tell you that's just 80 nits, and you're like, what? 80 nits, and it looks like this. What are we doing chasing brightness? um, what's up, Eric Thomas? He says, I'm not happy that every game runs on Unreal Engine. It's a stuttery mess, and every game looks the same. Blurry TAA on top. It is a back direction for the industry. I agree, man. And the developers can tell me, oh no, there's nothing wrong with the engine. You can make the game look perfect. Yeah, but that doesn't happen. It's like if you tell me, you see this hammer? You can actually build a house with this hammer. You know, you see someone that's very talented and he was actually able to do it, but I mean, the results are not there. I'm sorry. Unreal Engine sucks, and that's what I see with the games. I haven't seen a single, well, I cannot say a single example, but most of the games look absolutely terrible. The way these developers are using it is very bad. NPCs love 30 FPS. Cyberpunk Unreal Engine 5 next. Halo game Unreal Engine 5 hyped. That's such a miss, man. CD Projekt Red work on this engine, this red engine for Cyberpunk, and it's good. It's good. It looks good. Why are they changing to a Unreal Engine? It just blows my mind. It just, I don't understand. The only reason, why would you pay Epic if you already have an engine that looks so good? I just don't. It's a bad move for The Witcher, for the next Witcher games. Bad. Um, Yeah, Unreal Engine is terrible. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the engine that everyone uses. PS5 Pro will still have a subpar CPU, and you know why? Because they don't care about 120 FPS. They're just gonna add more stuff. So the CPU is necessary, mostly to get a higher frame rate. So you can lower the resolution to get less GPU load, so you can get a higher frame rate. But if your CPU cannot push those frames, then you're much you're better off just increasing the fidelity of the game. Of course, ray tracing uses the CPU and cloth simulation and other stuff that they do use the CPU. But what that tells me is basically they're not gonna be able to push more frames. And the PS5 Pro, I mean Pro, just look at the word Pro. If you're a pro player, you play competitive, you want rock solid performance, 120 minimum or more. And that's not what you're gonna get. So yeah, when I saw specs of the PS5 Pro, what a joke. Well, keep in mind how much they're gonna charge for that, because if they charge $600 for that, that's not terrible value. So yeah. Packley says yes, we have to get Digital Foundry on that. You know who I'm talking about, bro. Yeah, but they do a great job. I like their content. I think they do a great job. And I understand they like the state of the art technology, and they do mention, for example, Black Myth Wukong. I watch their live stream. It's not live, but you get what I'm saying. Their conversation, and the chief said Wukong has a problem. It looks overly sharp and it looks blurry at the same time. He said that. Now, the difference between Digital Foundry, between the way they do things and the way I would like them to do it, of course, they do whatever they want. That's why they have a platform, is that when they make the video, they start saying the good things about the game. And that's fair. That's fine with me. And it makes sense. If you're going to give the developer constructive criticism, you want to first acknowledge what they did right. That makes sense. And I applied that in real life too. Okay. So that's not wrong to do that. So they talk about how the good things, ray tracing, all these good things, and amazing. They do a great job doing that. Okay. But you have to understand that most people just watch the beginning of the video. Okay. Most people watch on YouTube the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of the video. When I make a video and the average view is like almost 5 minutes, I'm like, wow, this video was very good. I have to do more of that. Because that's what I really care about. How long do you watch the video? Because that tells me that the video was good. How many people watch the video is not that important to me, because it is important, but that just tells me that the title and the thumbnail is something that people are interested in. But what really matters is once you click the video, how long are you watching it? So the thing is, most people just watch the beginning of the video. So that's what they're going to see. Oh, the game's ray tracing, all this good stuff. And then at the end of the video, they might mention, oh yeah, it has this issue and this and that. To make a change, I would like them to say, okay. Let's start by saying that this game is a blurry mess. It looks overly sharp, and then because of that, they are ruining the good things. The good things are, okay, yeah, it does have ray tracing and this and that, but I cannot see the ray tracing. I cannot see the good stuff because the game looks terrible. It looks overly sharp. It looks blurry, and it has all these performance issues. So of course that would be more, harsh with the developers, and they might not like it. And it might not be the most elegant way, but I think it's the only way we can help to make a change. Otherwise, we're still getting the same crap again and again. It's the same problem. So yeah. Have you ever interlacing on a CRT? If so, do you think OLEDs could use interlacing for higher refresh rates? I haven't. Um, I don't think if that's even supported anymore. Um, with this GPU that we have and drivers and all that. But the thing is, OLEDs don't need any trick to get a higher refresh rate. OLEDs can get 100, will get to 1,000 hertz next year probably. They are already 480 hertz. I mean, that's not an issue for OLEDs to get a higher refresh rate. Maybe you're thinking about the advantage of interlacing because it's less demanding. Maybe. I don't know. That's interesting. It's an interesting question for someone who could answer it. I don't know. I have no idea about that. So GPU performance architect says just lower the brightness a little for desktop usage. The task manager auto hide and the screensaver after 3 minutes. And sometimes with videos, just switch from full screen to full screen after a few minutes. Switch back to full screen against the logos. Works fine. Yeah, all the things we do to save the OLED from burning. BFI looks horrible on LG C2. Yeah, it flickers. Yeah, the BFI on the LG OLEDs after the C1 is just black frame insertion. So basically what the TV is doing is inserting a black frame in between. So at 60 FPS, you have one black frame in between. And it looks like 120 FPS. But the flickering might be terrible for you. That's why you say it looks horrible. The C1 does it differently, though. The C1 does have the PWM strobing, but it's scanning the frame, and the rest is black. Scanning the frame, the rest is black. And it does flicker at 60. It's not great, but at 100 and 120, I don't see flickering at all, and it looks so clean. It's fantastic, man. HDR works with my LS. There is option to pick. Let's see what we have here. Using Lilium Black Floor Fix and HDR analysis tools, I can fix lower black floor to run 0 nits. But I get spikes. Do I need to fix the spikes or not? Thanks. No, the spikes are rounding errors. And that happens because of TAA. Because TAA makes everything noisy, that happens. Although I have to say, there was a game, I don't remember if it was Black Myth Wukong. It was one of these latest games that I tried where it was the opposite. If I turn off TAA, oh no, it was the Callisto Protocol. I believe it was. When I turn off TAA, the rounding errors got crazy. And when I turn on TAA, they were stable. So you don't have to worry about that. When you see the peak brightness, like the graph looks like there's like a dot going up and down like this, noisy, and the bottom graph also looks noisy, and you see the line doing this, it doesn't matter. Those are just rounding errors. Don't worry about it. Use your eyes. At the end of the day, if it looks good to you, it's good. That's the final word, how it looks to you. Is that best advice to prevent burning? Is set your PC to turn off display after 3 minutes, like 3 minutes. Okay. Let me see. Anyway, learn a lot from you, and my PC HDR gaming has improved a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Glad to hear that. You have to let that go. That's not really, that happens. That was my idea too, but so happy with my PC with 65-inch LGCS as a monitor. That's answering something from. But what I'm doing is reading bottom to top. So when I finish, I'm gonna end up the stream because I said I was gonna read all the comments, but of course, it is it's 2 hours already. So I have to. There has to be a stopping point. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Beamup says, so I thought the higher the brightness, the better the motion using BFI. If so, why are the new models still 8.3 when using 60 Hz BFI still? Is it pulsating at longer or shorter intervals? Great question. So the higher the brightness, the better the potential to get better motion, simply because you can lower the persistence more. But that doesn't mean that the motion will be better. Motion clarity is limited by persistence, meaning a display, regardless of the technology, it doesn't matter which technology it is, cannot have better motion clarity than its persistence. It could have worse motion clarity than its persistence if it has other limitations, such as gray to gray. Okay, so the TVs we have today are 120 hertz. We have some 144 hertz TVs now, but let's make it 120 because that's the number that I remember. 120 hertz means 8.3 milliseconds of persistence. Why? You divide 120 hertz means 120 frames in 1 second. Okay, so the persistence is how long we can see the frame. So you divide 1 divided by 120, and to get the results in milliseconds, you multiply that by 1000, you get 8.3 milliseconds. So it is sample and hold. So the whole time we see the frame. So we see the frame 8.3 milliseconds, then we see the next frame. That means if the other conditions are ideal, which they are in OLEDs, that means that we get 8 pixels of motion blur when moving at 1000 pixels per second. That's a blurry mess. Okay, so for the motion to look perfect, the speed of the object on screen needs to be 120 pixels per second. That's the speed of an object moving on the screen for it to look absolutely perfect, which is 1 pixel of motion blur. 1 pixel of motion blur is not perfect. It doesn't look like if it was a static. It is 1 pixel of motion blur that is considered to be perfect at a normal viewing distance. Okay? It's not perfect, but Chief says it is. Okay? He's right. So the problem is, yes, these displays are brighter, but they are still doing the same thing. That's why the motion doesn't improve. Because after this LG C1 and G1, what LG is doing is just inserting a black frame. So you have 120 hertz. The motion cannot get better than 8.3 milliseconds because what they are doing is you have 60 FPS, you insert a black frame in between, and that's it. So you reduce the persistence from 16.6 milliseconds. You reduce that to 8.3 because you are showing 1 frame, then a black one. You're showing 1 frame for that time and then a black one. So it doesn't matter that the TV is brighter. The motion doesn't get better, but it could It could get better, but for it to get better, it would need to use a different technique, like a rolling scan. That's what the CX and C1 do. You need to show the frame left to right, top to bottom, and you need to show just the section of the frame, and the rest should be black. So when the TV is brighter and you can get that pulse brighter, you can get either a brighter picture or you can lower the pulse. So basically, let's say if I start putting numbers here, I might make a mistake. But let's say like this: you need like 100 nits at least, so it's not too dark. So you can have like an SDR like picture quality. Okay, so if all you need is 100 nits, if the TV is brighter, you can reduce the portion of the frame that you're scanning. You can reduce it more and more and more. Okay, because it's a brighter TV. So you can improve the motion more. So, but that's not what's happening. The TVs are getting brighter, but LG keeps doing the same crap. So, but it could be much better. That's what I was trying to explain with the G4. The motion clarity of the G4 could be absolutely incredible, and it would still be bright, but they just don't do it for some reason. Lol, same question. Do you practice holding your breath for your intros? No, what I do, man, I follow the Tony Robbins advice for the videos. Okay, you know who Tony Robbins is? He's like one of these people who are kind of between a coach and a psychologist, and he helps people to achieve their maximum potential and all of that. So when I was learning English, I used to listen to Tony Robbins a lot. Okay. And he tells you, for anything that you want to perform, you want to first put yourself in a high peak performance state, right? So for example, if I'm going to play the guitar and I'm going to play something that's lightning fast, super demanding, I cannot just wake up and be like, oh, I'm gonna go, oh, boring, I'm tired. That's not gonna work, you know. I have to like move and do some exercises and be pumped up so I can play super fast. So before recording the video, that's why I do that. And I always laugh. So I'll tell you what happens before I record every single video. First, I laugh. And I laugh, lose my breath, laughing. I hit record, and that's why I have to take the air in. That's what happens. So when I do the videos, the only reason why I sometimes repeat the video, so I stop the recording and start again, is because I didn't get that energy for the beginning right. So I didn't get into the mindset that I needed to start recording the video. So I repeat again. But once I start, I don't, I don't edit the videos. I don't even think about what I'm going to talk about. I don't care what I'm going to say. I don't care if I make a mistake. None of that matters. The only thing that I focus on is before putting myself into the right mental state that I want to have to present whatever I'm going to say on that video. That's what I focus on. That's That's what I think I enjoy the more doing. And I do this because it's in English. Honestly, in Spanish, I would not like to have a YouTube channel or anything, because I started the YouTube channel because I wanted to improve my communication skills, and it worked. I feel like I can communicate better now, and it's because of the YouTube channel. It's because of that practice of recording videos. Well, every day I used to do it every day, but I'm a lot busier now. I move, new job. I have a lot of things to learn. But yeah, hopefully we can pump up the content, and I would like to do more live streams. Also with my PC, maybe reacting to some videos too. I would like to do some of similar to what Asmongol does, and reacting to videos and stuff, because honestly, that's very, I'm not gonna say that's easy. That's very demanding. I mean, he does a live stream for the entire day. That's a lot of, super demanding. But the thing is, you get content that's infinite. You don't have to invent the content. The content is out there. You just react to it and stuff. Of course, I want to create my own content, but that's your own content anyway. It's just your take on things. But I would like to also, just play the games and chat, and similar to something what he does. I think I would enjoy doing some of that. Somebody's asking me in Spanish if I already beat Black Myth Wukong. I haven't even played it yet, but I will. I definitely will. Hey man, what can be done on the PS5? How to improve overall experience on consoles? The things that I've shared with the TV settings, and things that I talk about with the calibration and the HDR tone mapping and all of that. That's it. I don't know any other secrets. I've never tried a PS5. I honestly have no idea how that looks or what are the problems for that. So I mean, gaming tech can help you more than me with that. So yeah, but I mean, you've asked me many questions that I think I've answered everything I could to help you out. I use a sport or vivid. Maybe game mode is better for input lag. So if you're going to use a different mode that's not gaming, I would recommend you either vivid mode, but on vivid mode, of course, change the settings because it looks terrible. Super clipping color is terrible, but it is brighter. Or use Cinema Home. Cinema Home might be brighter than vivid sometimes, but yeah, those are the two modes. But if it looks better and you have that option to lower the input lag, that might be the way to go. Although you don't need to do that on the G4 C4 anymore. They still look better outside of game mode, but you do get some of that color boosting. I'm not sure which one you have. But yeah, if you don't care about the input lag, just get it looking better, and who cares about that? I don't care too much about the input lag, honestly. For the guy asking about Dark Souls 3, there's a new 120 FPS mod for it. It supports full screen. It is called Proper PC Experience on Nexus Mod. Well, thank you very much, Rodrigo. I'm going to check that out. Thank you very much. That's what we need. Really appreciate how you brought up old tech like 3D. I mean, 3D is next gen, bro. I don't know why they removed 3D. It just makes no sense. I make that video on the Sony TV. I was like, why 3D was discontinued? Because there was no content? That doesn't make sense, because this TV can simulate 3D for all content. I can play all the games in 3D with this TV. And passive 3D glasses. I played the entire day and I was not, I didn't feel any discomfort with the glasses, no flickering, nothing. The only thing is, yeah, you do lose brightness, and the white balance is gonna look off because the 3D glasses look kind of yellow. So the colors get affected. But there might be ways to improve that, but they just discontinue the technology. They didn't just keep improving it. It's a terrible idea. Do you practice holding your breath for your interest? I already talk about that. I can hold my breath for like 2 minutes. Because I keep a healthy lifestyle, especially with my diet. I exercise once in a while, but especially the diet. I don't eat anything bad. Nothing. All the stuff that you know is bad, I don't eat none of that. So being here in YouTube say LG loses color in game mode, which is correct, but would switching to native or any preset besides game STD would add color back in. So when you change from this game genre presets, when you change from a standard, from STD to FPS, that's like forcing native color gamut when you are on SDR, or like increasing the color depth when you are on HDR. So for example, a standard on HDR on my C1, a standard color depth 55 is like FPS color depth 46. That's a big, but you're gonna be clipping colors if you don't lower it. So I would recommend if you use FPS, lower the color saturation to 46. So then what's the point? Why would you use FPS? Well, because the sharpness slider behaves in a different way. So you can get a little bit more sharpness if you increase the sharpness to 10 and you're on FPS. That's why I use FPS sometimes to get a little bit more sharpness from the TV. If it's a very blurry game or something like that, I do that. But the color boosting, you don't get the color boosting by increasing the color saturation. The color boosting is just the tone mapping algorithm of the TV or power restriction or something. They just push more brightness. The pixels, the colors are going to look more vibrant because they are brighter. And that's just a restriction from LG. It's just bad idea. I don't know why. They do that to prevent burning because they know the gamers play with HUDs all the time. But it's a terrible idea. I mean, it just makes no sense. People watching the TV, they watch content that has logos too. So why you restrict that to gamers? It's terrible. So yeah, Black Myth Wukong is definitely not game of the year. I haven't played it, but it looks like my game. Like the kind of game I really like. I'll definitely play. I'm finishing Red Dead now. I never finished Red Dead before. I played it from the beginning again, and I'm finishing it now. And I mean, it's a good game, and it's nothing comes close to Red Dead. In my opinion, it's just it's rock star, man. RTX HDR plus VSync through NVIDIA app works perfectly for 120 FPS Dark Souls 3. Well, sounds good. That's awful. I'm saving up to get one too. Now I'm clenching my wallet after reading your comment. Okay, let's see what happened there. I have a C1 55-inch works perfectly. Should I consider a new TV or still use my C? I would not get anything else, bro. I would wait for that inkjet printer RGB 8K 3D glassless 3D from TCL. That's the one I would get. That's an upgrade for sure. You're getting 8K 3D. I'm off that. Yes, they also have a 4K one, but that would be an upgrade. Definitely. I mean, this TV is gonna be insane. Big upgrade. That's the one I would get. Beamup says Astrobot is game of the year. Let's see. Leonardo said, God bless you, Ariels. Last week, my C155-inch malfunctioned after 18 months use only. A white vertical line, a pixel line that never disappeared. I tried everything, full screen cleaning, etc. Oh, yeah, that sucks. Did you try, Gaming Tech had this issue, a similar issue, and he pushes the top of the TV and it goes away. It's like a bad contact or something. So where you have the line, try to push it a little bit and see if that fixes that. But yeah, I mean, I would contact LG anyway. Contact them and see if they can do anything about it. Maybe they would. That's too bad. 18 months only. They should cover something like that. But yeah, that can't happen with any TV really. We all need a 480 hertz BF5 without halving the refresh rate, like the current OLED Asus ELMB BF5. Yeah, I saw that Asus monitor. The problem is it has a matte finish, man. That's a no-go. But it does have BF5. You need 240 FPS locked, no drops, to go from 240 to 480. That's not good enough, man. They should have. See, if they had, for example, if they had the option to 60 FPS to go from 60 to 480, like from 120 to 480, like from 240 to 480. And it was not just a black frame insertion. It's not just inserting black frames. Because the problem with that is, I believe it is more difficult to get enough brightness. And here's why. If you are using a scanning, the window size on the screen can be very small. But if you are just inserting a full black frame and then you have to show the next frame and it's a full frame, you have the ABL limitations, the power limitations. So I believe it is easier to get a brighter picture if you use the scanning and your pulse is small, very small. But for that, they need to add some hardware and they need to, work a little bit more. And if they have a matte finish, that's not worth it, man. Why would you do that? Just put a glossy finish and then work on that thing. But yeah, I will definitely need that. Black Myth Wukong is a game of the year. I believe so. I mean, from what I've seen, that game is fantastic. I'm definitely gonna play it. Are you interested in Linux gaming in the challenges HDR brings with it? They say Linux is handling HDR pretty well. Better than Windows. PSVR 2 still has a lot of motion blur. Not for me. Not really. It's 2 milliseconds. Yeah, I mean, we need better for VR for sure. Thanks for the reply. I have been following the channel and recently tried ReShade, recommended by you in multiple games. I tried it works wonders on games. For example, Cyberpunk with HDR 1000 mode. White Shadow says, I have a Panasonic TH58 700U. It is great gaming TV. Yeah, Panasonic's coming back to the US. DIY Perks made his own dual LCD. Worth a look. Yeah, I saw that video. I mean, I don't know why. I don't understand why it's so expensive to do a dual layer LCD. Why? Maybe the problem is not that it's more expensive. The problem is that it's going to consume a lot more power and we have these nonsense power restrictions. I don't understand. I think Nvidia is the only one who gets away with it. 600 watt, who can get away with a 600 watt CPU. But why not? Just give me a monitor that's brighter. I don't care if it's 600 watts. Who cares? I mean, but yeah, dual layer LCDs should be here. They have much better contrast. I mean, we have reference monitors that use that technology. But to get that brightness, you need to push a lot more, because those for the light to go through all those two layers is a lot more difficult. That's why you get better black levels. But yeah, I don't know why we don't have those, and why they're so expensive. OLED 480 hertz or Pulsar 360 hertz. The Pulsar is gonna be a lot more clear. It's not close. The Nvidia Pulsar, the display is just a lot more clear. That's what I was talking about. I said ULMB 2.0. Yeah, that's the one, the Pulsar one that has VRR and the strobing at the same time. The Nvidia Pulsar, that's the one. Yeah, that's gonna be more clear. But the thing is, the picture quality is terrible. It's LCD. So what do you care more? I would prefer the OLED just because it looks better. But who can get 480 FPS on the games? That's the thing. I really like the dual LCD implementation. Not common, and washes a lot of light, but it gets damn dark. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad technology at all. I don't know why we don't have it. Thanks for all the advice. 100% agree. I switched from the weekend to Windows 11, and the beta NVIDIA HDR for YouTube is great. I'm currently trying it out for SDR games as I speak. Absolutely. This is why I committed yesterday to HDR certification. Should have been done HDIG properly. Give max nits, enter number of player, PC, console, everything would be so much better for us. You tried Delta Force? That's an old game. I'll check it out. So they have a new one. In fact, the other day I was watching the Wukong video I made in HDR with my plasma in SDR, and I was pretty surprised how it looks. The colors, clarity, contrast, and brightness are pretty nice. Yeah, plasma always impress. How's it going? Mystic 1978. Marma says, what do you think of the software UI after they changed it for C2 and onward? Know any hack to revert it to simple UI? Software UI after they change it on the... what do I think about the interface of the... I think it's a lot faster. That's really what I care about. I actually like it. On the store, I tried the C3. I made a video about it. And I mean, that's so much faster than the C1. The interface, the menus are a lot faster. That's what I really care about. You still have the same settings. You have even more settings. Yeah, I'm okay with the changes they did. If it works faster too, like that's great. Wolverine says, on your black level race, then maybe you increase the 2 points low. Levels to high, they should be set to 0 or lower. Yeah, the problem, if you increase the 2 points calibration, if you increase the low more than 4, I believe, the RGB values in more than 4, you raise the black. So I don't like to increase the low point of the 2 points calibration, because I raise the blacks. And it is so difficult to see that black level raise, because not all the pixels on the screen turn on, just some of them. You have to put your nose on the screen to see that black level race. And actually, if you use BFI on my C1, it goes away and you do get perfect blacks. But if you don't use BFI, the black level race is so small that I see image retention. So the pixels stay on. It's such an interesting phenomenon. So yeah, I don't recommend you to increase the low of the 2-point calibration at all to prevent those issues. Why does the CX motion clarity at 60 looks better than the C1? Because it's doing a shorter pulse. That's the only explanation. How shorter? Like half. So the CX at 60 looks like the C1 at 120. And it looks like the CX at 120. So the CX at 60 looks the same as the CX at 120 when using OLED Motion Pro High. The only difference is that it is dimmer. At 60, it's dimmer, and it flickers. It looks like it flickers more for most people. So on 120, it flickers less. It's a little bit brighter. That's the CX. The motion clarity of my plasma at 60 Hertz is even better than my C1 at 120. Yeah, with BFI off. Yes, it is better. It is better. No question about it. Significantly better. Is black level limited on the TV and on NVIDIA is full? No. Just keep them on auto. It should be full, both in NVIDIA and the GPU. See, that was something that I recommended on those at the beginning because I thought that was a problem. But I was wrong. That was not the problem. The problem is, one, the games, some of them are messed up. And the other problem is Windows with that piecewise sRGB gamma curve, which is like, I don't know why they have that, but yeah, you fix it with the ICC profile, not by mismatching the RGB values. Does black frames make stutter worse compared to interpolation and sample and hold? No, not at all. It has nothing to do with stuttering. The only downsides of those black frames is like black frames or any kind of backlight manipulation or scrolling, rolling scan, whatever. You lose brightness. It can affect the input lag a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It flickers and flicker. It can be perceived. You can get some flicker. Hey, what's up, Dirt Gary? He says, it is strange that the native Windows sRGB profile has low detail in the shadows, like Rec 709. The new sRGB profile has detail on the shadows above. But you're talking about the ICC profiles that I share? Or so you're saying the native Windows sRGB profile has low details in the shadow, and the new sRGB profile has details in the shadows above. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know. I have to check that out. I don't know what you're talking about. Greetings from Russia, brother. My brother from Russia. Dirt Gary. Okay? Fyodor Yemelyanikov. Using the i1 Display Pro colorimeter and the Display Cal program, I calibrated my plasmas by changing the Windows color profile. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I actually got the remote control situation fixed on my Pioneer Curve. I didn't do anything. Basically, I moved the TV from one state to another, and after 600 miles, it got fixed by itself. So I'm going to be checking out your video about resetting the black, resetting the TV so I get better blacks. So I will do that. I'm gonna be checking out, and of course, I'm gonna record a video for the channel. Something very niche. Not a lot of people are gonna be interested in that, but if you have one of those Pioneer Kuros, you definitely want to check it out. 64 tubes aren't being made anymore. So it is clear why CRTs are getting more and more expensive. Same issue with Nintendo 64 joysticks. Yeah. Have you tried the new Hunt Showdown HDR? No? Is that a free-to-play game? I think it is. I have to check. Have you tried Wukong yet, my friend? Nope. Thanks you for answering my question. Do you think we'll get OLED monitors with NVIDIA Pulsar? No. OLED, because the problem is that the Pulsar naming also has some specifications for brightness, and OLED cannot get bright enough to meet those. So what they can do is to create a different name for the OLED part. So it will be Pulsar True Blacks technology or something like that. And then they can do something to improve the clarity. I wish they do that. They should definitely do that. What do you think of CRT boom we are in right now? Okay, that's the question. So basically, it took me 35 minutes to read all the questions from that. So I read all the questions for 2 hours. Okay, so I'm gonna finish the stream because otherwise we'll be here all day. So thank you for all of you that showed up. So now I know that there's nothing wrong with a StreamYard, because I was trying yesterday to do this to highlight the questions. Yeah, so Merrick, what I did to explain you is I read all the chat completely, all the questions. I read them. When it was 2 hours, I said, okay, I need to stop at some point. So what I start doing was I start from the most recent comment, and then I start reading backwards until I got to that question in the 2 hour mark, and then I'm finishing, because then that's the only way I can do it. Otherwise, I would need to wait until there's no one commenting to finish the stream, and that might take me a long time. So I read all the questions for 2 hours and 38 minutes. So thank you for everyone who showed. Today, I will do more of this. I like live streams. I will do more of it. I will also see if I can set up the streaming on my PC so I can be playing a game. So you don't have to look at my face or something. I want to see if I have a way to look at the chat, be playing the game, so we can hang around and maybe do an analysis or something like that. Also see if I can stream on HDR and we can do an analysis like live, real time or something like that. Okay, well, thanks for everyone who showed up. You guys have a nice rest of the day. Take care.